The Supreme Court's higher education rulings this week come at an already challenging moment for educators. There are a number of Republican lawmakers restricting lessons on Black history. Parent groups are protesting over so-called critical race theory, and books are being banned from classrooms and libraries. The removal of race-conscious admissions policies and the striking down of President Biden's student loan forgiveness program, they add yet another threat to diversity in education and challenges for administrators. Look, as Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote in her dissent, quote, deeming race irrelevant in law does not make it so in life. Although formal race-linked legal barriers are gone, race still matters to the lived experiences of all Americans in innumerable ways, and today's ruling makes things worse, not better. Joining me now to discuss is the new president of Mount Holyoke College, Danielle Holley, who previously served as the dean of Howard University School of Law. Today, President Holley becomes the first Black woman to serve as president of Mount Holyoke College. Congratulations to you, Madam President. I know it's your first day, but I could imagine you have been anticipating these rulings from the court. What is your plan for maintaining a commitment to diversity while still following the letter of the law?
You know, I think most colleges and universities began preparing for these rulings over a year ago when we knew that the Supreme Court was planning to hear these cases. The Supreme Court had decided race-conscious admissions were constitutional many times over. So when the court composition changed and they took these cases, the presumption was that they would overturn affirmative action, and that's exactly what we saw them do. So here at Mount Holyoke, we have a very strong plan for being able to maintain our commitment to racial and ethnic diversity, and in fact, all kinds of diversity, which is first to stick to our values and mission. We know that having a richly diverse student body is the cornerstone of what makes what we do here at Mount Holyoke special. So keeping that value is the first thing that colleges and universities can do to overcome the many obstacles that have been set up by the Supreme Court in this ruling.
It's my understanding that in the wake of this ruling, you, like many other presidents across the country of universities and colleges, sent a message to students and faculty. What did that message say?
You know, my message to students and faculty said, Mount Holyoke is a place that empowers you and is a place that empowers students to be the best of who they are. And that means the whole student. As Justice Jackson said, and I thought the quote that you showed was so important, is that we know that whether or not the Supreme Court deems race to be important in the law, and we saw Justice Roberts, I think, you know, in a really tone-deaf way, say, you know, we have to eliminate discrimination by eliminating all racial discrimination. And eliminating structural racism and the impact that race has on the lives of everyday people doesn't happen with the wave of a wand. And so we know that it is necessary to really think about who students are in terms of their whole person, and that race is a huge part of whether students have access to equal opportunity in K through 12, whether they will have access to scholarship money to be able to come to college. All of those things are impacted by the lived experience of our students, and that includes their racial and ethnic backgrounds.
I want to turn to student loans, if you will. In the wake of the ruling from the Supreme Court, President Biden responded. I just spoke with his domestic policy advisor, Neera Tanden, about this. So the new Biden loan forgiveness plan, in it, he announced a 12-month forbearance option and a revised income-based repayment plan that lowers the payment cap on undergraduate loans to 5% of disposable income. It also eliminates monthly interest not covered by borrowers' payments. It also grants forgiveness to borrowers with loans of $12,000 or less after 10 years. Do you think this new plan goes far enough? And what effect, do you see it having a substantial effect on folks who are low income with loans who really do need forgiveness to, you know, get out from under the weight of debt?
You know, I really think it's important that President Biden stated his continued commitment to relieving people from student loans. We know that student loan debt disproportionately impacts people of color, and people from low-income communities. So while it's not exactly what we would have wanted to see in terms of the debt relief program that was come up with from the HEROES Act, I think the commitment to trying this again under the Higher Education Act and the steps that President Biden announced yesterday, I think are two important pieces that we have. What we don't want to see the affirmative action rulings do and the student debt ruling do together is to discourage students of color, particularly Black and Latina students, from even thinking about higher education. And we've seen that the access to higher education is really an issue for both of those communities. And I think it's important that President Biden at least take the steps that he can right now as they are figuring out how to move forward under the Higher Education Act to have some relief for students of color, for all students, but I think particularly the communities that are impacted most by these questions of student debt.
Danielle Hawley, the new president of Mount Holyoke College, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.